You've got your degree in the bag. You've got your CTA in the bag. You've got your IAC in the bag. You've got your APC in the bag. You've got your CASA behind your name and you are ready for work. You apply for that dream job you've been eyeing ever since you started your audit articles. Finally, freedom. You apply. You get the interview. You get the job. 12 months pass. They don't renew your contract. You're devastated. Naturally. You think to yourself, but you're a CA. Don't they need you? Think again. Today, job security is not about being employed, but being employable. You got the job, but you didn't do what it takes to keep it. You remained an employee and failed to become an asset. How do you ensure job security and become irreplaceable? Today, we are joined by Liron Leiboff, CASA and Senior Financial Analyst at Osiris Trading. We chat about what it takes to become a worker in any organization that is not only valuable, but irreplaceable. We also chat about how the Wolf of Wallstreet led him to the CA designation, value creation versus value capture, Costco's scaled economies shared business strategy, and more. I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA. Very, very quick one. This episode is, I believe, one about a main topic, and that is this idea of high agency, the idea that very basically you can affect the outcomes of your life, that you have some self-efficacy, that when you put in effort or when you do things, you can change things. And I think there's an incredible article that you can refer to in the show notes. It's by a guy named George Mack, great writer, who writes a 30-minute piece that is just incredible. I believe it's one of those formative pieces of writing that you should quickly go and check out. Linked in the show notes. With that, on to the episode. Welcome back, my people. This is the Road to CA podcast, the show for aspiring chartered accountants to inspire, empower, and inform the difference makers of tomorrow. Yo, today, guys, we're in for a treat. Today, we're joined by one of those rare and brilliant minds, a thinker, a deep thinker, but also a doer, putting his ambition to action as we speak. He's currently the group financial controller at Inc., a global leading edge solutions provider, innovating the business landscape through edge computing solutions with branches across 16 African cities all over the continent. It's a Pan-African company. And he's also an entrepreneur as well, having started a 7-figure revenue e-commerce business. Yeah, man, this is very interesting stuff we're going to be chatting about today. More importantly, he loves knowledge acquisition, philosophy, psychology, and dabbles in politics in his spare time. He's the man outside the mold. We're joined by Liron Leiboff. Liron, how are you, man?
Good in you, Lunga. It's great to be here.
Yeah, as I said, man, I'm excited because for me, I think one of the great pleasures of my life is to handle and deal with important ideas, which I think we'll touch on today.
I hope so. I think you're a very perceptive guy. I think we chatted a couple of weeks ago in preparation for this podcast. So yeah, looking forward to exploring some ideas, and hopefully it'll be interesting to the listeners.
Yeah, man. Okay, first thing we do at the Road to CA is we go back. So let's go back to, for you, where this whole CA thing came into the picture for you. I know you have an interesting journey towards it.
Sure. So it wasn't so straightforward. I didn't know in high school that I wanted to be a CA. I didn't even take accounting for matric. Um, I started reading a lot of books specifically about business from grade 9, grade 10. And embarrassingly enough, I picked up the Wolf of Wallstreet in grade 10. So I was like, cool, I'm going to be a stockbroker because obviously that's how you make a lot of money. Like, I'm going to overlook all the shenanigans, that book depicts. But
Uh,
obviously you make money as a stockbroker. So um, I'm going to go study, economics after school. And it's very obviously, like, the American system is very different to the South
mm,
African system. So a point I'd like to make is we consume a lot of content that's produced in the first world, and then try and copy paste it into our context here in South Africa or into third world countries, and it just doesn't really work.
mm,
So anyway, so I started my studies, BCom economics, and lo and behold, you had to take accounting anyway in first year, and it was the same accounting as the CAA stream students took as well, and I ended up doing pretty well in accounting, and after mingling with a few of my peers and students, and a couple of the guys from school went the CA stream, I decided to switch. It just made the most sense for me to have that safety net of articles at the finish line, because you started hearing about guys studying general BCom or like BCom finance, and there's a lot more competition, so to speak,
mm,
after you qualify to get certain jobs, and
mm,
an article just seemed bankable. So I think it was more about de-risking my career path, after varsity to through changing to the CA route. So yeah, I wasn't a toddler dreaming about becoming a chartered accountant at all. I think I just really like business and economics and banking and finance, and maybe it was, again, first world pop culture,
mm,
movies and books and that kind of stuff that planted that seed. Um,
mm.
and CA, I guess, in our context in South Africa, is the right path towards those types of careers.
Mm. Yo, I think a really profound thought is understanding that this is not the movies, this is real life. And
Yeah.
even in the US, very interestingly, we have this idea of the US, but we've only watched one movie in one place. And so you see the US in New York, in Wall Street in 1979. Firstly, are you going to go to Wall Street if you go to the US? Maybe you could be in, I don't know, the South. You could be in North Carolina. You could be in Mississippi. You could be anywhere, and it's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough in a lot of those US cities. Um, and so, like, matching the image in your mind and reality is so important. And I actually wanted to draw to this thought around the depths of your dream. So what I find is the more shallow your dreams are, the more disillusioned you'll be when reality comes into contact with your trying to realize it.
Yeah.
I've seen so many times I've seen so many times people say, I want this, and then you'll and I don't know if you've seen the curve of, I think it was Alex Hormozy that I saw it from. He's a business dude. But it's like this curve of entrepreneurship where you have this uninformed optimism phase where it's like, I'm gonna become a millionaire through a social media
Yeah.
marketing. And you're like, yeah, this is the way, this is the way. And then you find out that, oh damn, it's actually not easy. You start to hit informed pessimism. And that's where you're like, okay, maybe it's not as easy as I thought. And then you go to the valley of despair where it's like, yo, I'm actually like bankrupt. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't have food in the fridge, blah, blah, blah. And that's where most people leave, where they're disillusioned. My thing about the depth of a dream is that when it's those few, and those fearless few that, because they believe in this so much and they have such a clear vision in their mind, they stick the course. And what happens is you actually get, if you just stay in, if you just keep going past postgrad, past that first year articles, you get through and you past actual APC and you get the CA and past that next phase, you get to informed optimism. And if you can just keep writing it, you can actually get to your dream, which is just such a profound thought. You've also had a number of positions in your career. You've had your pick at the buffet, as they say. Like you've been a business consultant, you've been an engagement manager, VP, outsource sales, your business optimization manager. Now you're a group financial controller. What were the biggest lessons that you've learned in each of those seasons? I'm curious.
I mean, it's a great question. I think the overarching lesson is that, like, I've got a curious mind, and if things sound interesting, like, I don't really care about the job title or whatever. Like, as long as the business is interesting and inspiring and doing cool stuff, and I'll be learning and acquiring new skills. Like you can see with all those roles, they're all very different. So each one I acquired a bunch of different skills, and that they've all contributed to, either me being more well-rounded in my current, full-time role, or in side businesses and starting side businesses and creating, growing my network and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, from a consulting perspective, you learn how to show clients the value that you want to deliver to them. I mean, a few weeks ago, we chatted about value creation and value capture. So in the consulting world, you want to show a client, for example, a mining client, that if they implement the system or the solution that you are recommending, that's tailored towards their use case, it will result in this bottom line improvement to them. And for a fraction of that bottom line improvement, that is what it's going to cost them. So that is the value capture towards in the consulting environment. And I think that principle kind of, there's a golden thread from there, which was almost like a light bulb moment, going through to, what side hustles I create or what businesses I join, is what the business actually creates for its customers, and what is the value differential between what the business delivers and what the business charges. If the value differential is large, meaning you're delivering so much value to customers that it almost feels like a bargain to the customer, that's going to be a good business. If the value differential is not that large, or at least the perceived value is not that great to the customer, you're going to have problems. It's not going to be as sustainable as you may think or as you may like, because competition with just a slightly better perceived value proposition will win over that customer, and you'll have a high churn rate. So I think that's a really good principle to learn early on, is be involved or create a business that delivers way more value to your customers, and the differential is massive, so that your customers feel like they're having a bargain, and that becomes a flywheel of competitive advantage where it's very difficult for other businesses to compete in your space.
So would you say that was the business consulting job's big lesson?
Yeah, and I mean, as I said, like there was a golden thread, and like I kind of observed that through all my other roles.
Yeah.
Um, that, and like some of the companies, I won't name them, didn't have um, that huge variance in value delivered versus value captured.
Yeah.
Um, and the ones that did, or the ones that still do, are fantastic businesses.
For those who don't know the idea, so me and Liron were talking about this idea that I've been thinking about of value creation versus value capture. So I don't know if you know, definitely a third year would have seen this, definitely a CTA student, definitely someone in articles, and obviously a CA. But that value creation diagram. So the value creation process goes six capitals in enterprise processes, operations, to process the things, and then you have a valuable output, right? So that's how we create value in organizations. So that's basically what you do. As a CA, you could be anywhere in this whole value chain, as part of the inputs. Maybe you're the person who goes and finds the capital, who raises capital for things, and all these types of things that CFOs and financial managers and people who do CA things do. Maybe you're more of an operational mind and you're actually in ops, making sure that you're fixing processes and optimizing systems and creating systems. You could think of that as your internal auditor in some cases, right? So these are a lot of the skills that we're gaining. But basically, that's all creating value. That's the stuff that makes the world a better place, right? Capturing value is all about, and so this is stuff that we would learn in financial management, pricing decisions, marketing and sales tactics. Um, it's all about making money from the value you create. So what Liron was talking about in terms of that differential, if you create X amount of value, let's say the customer technically would pay 100 Rand for the value that you've created. You've created 100 Rands of value in a mouse, right? Created a mouse, and now you've created 100 Rand of value. What a sustainable company is, and that's what you're alluding to in terms of the whole, in terms of the ability to operate, and if you have a small differential, you won't have a lot of potential. What a sustainable company can do, remember, it's triple bottom line: planet, profit, and people. So it's not just people, planet. They capture a sliver of value compared to how much value they create. And I remember you talked about Costco. I actually want to hear what you know about them. Can you explain us? So Costco is a company in the US. It's a wholesaler. But you can actually explain us how Costco has really sort of, they've taken this value creation, value capture mental model, and they've taken it to the extreme where like they are virtually capturing nothing and they're actually giving all the value back to the customer. But can you explain that whole thing?
Yeah, sure. So the Costco model is actually, it takes value creation, value capture to the next level, which is called scaled economies shared. So as Costco delivers more and more value to their customers through low prices, they they end up getting more and more customers, which makes them able to buy in larger volumes and quantities from suppliers, which generates larger rebates and discounts from their suppliers, which they pass on to the customers. And then the virtuous cycle carries on like that. So if anyone were to go in to compete with Costco now, the barriers to entry are just insurmountable because no one can possibly go and strike the same pricing deals with Costco suppliers as Costco can. So Gatorade or whatever other American brand sells huge quantities through Costco cannot give the same pricing to anyone else. I guess Amazon is getting to that level, just by virtue of how big it's grown, and they've actually taken a lot of plays out of the Costco playbook. But Costco is really such a fascinating case study and really ticks all those boxes of I don't know if they tick the planet box, but definitely what's the triple P's? The people, planet,
profit.
profit. Okay, so I don't know about the planet, but definitely people and profit. Costco pays the employees more than any other retailer in the US by quite a large factor. Their tenure, I can't remember the numbers off by hand, but I think like an Amazon worker, their turnover, their employee turnover is. I'm actually not going to put numbers to it because I don't know the exact numbers. So I encourage the listeners to go and look at the Costco employee turnover versus Amazon versus Walmart. But it's well reported that Costco is a fraction of the employee turnover, and people, the employees are staying there for a lot of years and actually making careers out of it, and retiring with fully paid pensions and all of that kind of stuff. So that's the people side. And then obviously the profit side, it's really just a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you deliver enough value to your customers and enough value to your people, the profits will take care of themselves. So if we want to get into the weeds a bit more about the business model, right? So Costco mandates, and they publish this in their financials, and it's been this way since inception, that they will only mark up their goods, the goods and services that they provide to their customers by 15%, a maximum of 15%. They will not mark it up more than 15%. Okay,
Gross,
so
ne?
gross.
Yo,
So-
that sounds like you're being strangled at the neck in a company.
Exactly. Costco's top line revenue, I think, is about $200 billion, the most recently. And their bottom line net profit is $4 billion. So on a percentage basis, that's like what, 2%, 2 or 3%?
2%.
And now we're taught as CAs that that's a terrible business, right? Like we'll be taught in financial management to, like, we should only invest in high margin, high growth businesses. Now, Costco is literally demonstrating that is not the case. They make like 70 or 80% of that bottom line is just from their membership fees. So that is where the profits come from. So membership fees, I think it's like from like $60 to all the way up to like $140 for like small businesses or whatever per annum. And they'll have millions and millions of subscribers or customers. And those membership fees drop straight to the bottom line. So everything else is really just operating at break even. All these warehouses, the logistics, everything is pretty much operating at a slight, probably 50 basis points of profit. Right? 50 basis points of the 200 billion is probably, attributable to that 15% markup. The rest is membership fees. Now, that is the moat or the competitive advantage they're protecting. In order for people to pay membership fees, you have to deliver them more value than they could possibly get anywhere else where they don't have to pay membership fees. So like a Target or a Walmart or anything like that. So yeah, that's the model. And every new warehouse that opens in a new area around the world, they have expanded globally, and apparently there were like kilometer-long queues in China when they opened there. So people love the model, people love the good deal, and there's so many other things that are fascinating about the Costco story. Where, like, the one thing that they realized was people love hunting for a good deal. So they don't like, being marketed to, here's a good deal. They like going to a Costco and stumbling upon something in the warehouse and they're like, oh my God, like I actually need this and it's such a good price. And like that discovery process of actually like going to the Costco and like walking around this huge warehouse and finding things that are bargain prices that you won't be able to get anywhere else. That's also something that they've realized. And then, would you say that Costco's client or customer base is, poorer America, wealthier America, middle class America? Like, which demographic do you think they serve?
Typically, I mean, logically, let me say it like this. Logically, cheaper prices, lower LSM.
Yeah, so that's not the case. The membership fees payable upfront at the beginning of the year. Most lower LSMs or poorer communities find it difficult to part with that $60, $70, $100, whatever at the beginning of the year in order to get lower prices down the line. So Costco structurally, I don't know if this was like actually planned or that it just happened that way, but structurally speaking, they've got wealthy customers who don't steal products and services. So there's like literally zero theft, because if you steal, you'll be banned from Costco, and like no one wants to lose their Costco membership. So there's almost zero shoplifting, huge purchasing power. So, and I mean, number three, huge purchasing power. Costco, I think, doesn't pay the credit card companies anything because of the volume of payments that goes through Costco. The credit card companies were actually bidding to get that business from Costco to process those payments. Normally a merchant like me in my e-commerce, I'll pay like 3% per transaction just to accept a payment. Costco pays zero.
Sure.
That's
an example of scale
companies
economy.
want that volume. Exactly.
That's one example of those scale economies. Because like in school, we sort of just in financial management or ManFin, we'll just sort of say in a discussion question, it's a big company, therefore they can take advantage of economies of scale. Guys, this is scale economies. Costco can go and say, bank, I don't want to pay any fee for credit card payments. But you, little small guy, have to. You have to pay that little 3-4%. You know what that means? It means less margin. You know what that means? It means you have to be like this. You have to you have to walk around with like you're being strangled. But to sort of apply this to a student life, students can definitely take the very business minded. So like you can use this information and this thinking in a financial management question. Cool. But in life, I really feel like we need to create more value than we capture. That's the most important thing. We need to be focused on the creation part.
Yeah, and we can extrapolate that to when you enter the working world, right? People are very quick to ask the manager for raises or wanting more salaries or big bonuses or whatever. You've got to, and Charlie Munger says this, to get what you want, you need to deserve what you want. Okay, you're not just going to get 20%, 30% increases or whatever because you feel like you deserve that or you feel entitled to something like that. If you can say to the company, I have delivered such and such project, this is the ROI that's delivered, can I capture 1% of that ROI? So let's say like I deliver 100 million rand cost savings at Anglo American through some FP&A planning thing where I've identified that if we change the route of where these underground trucks, carry the metal, and we just change it, from this route to that saves X amount of fuel, and that drops 100 million rand to the bottom line. Okay, I'll figure that out because I've spent extra time and analyzing the operations. Okay, cool. So I'll figure that out, guys. I want 1% of the 100 million rand savings. Like, does that sound fair? Like, like, in what world does that not sound fair? I've delivered my employer or my business 100 million rand. Okay, 1% of that. Like, if you frame your ask or your increase in that kind of context, like, what option does your boss or manager have but to say, yeah, like, I actually can't argue with that. That is the fairest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of going to your boss, manager, CEO, whatever, and saying, I've been here for 2 years, can I have a raise? Okay, well, you've been here for 2 years, so like, whoopee. Like, like, but if you go to them and say, I've been here for 2 years, these are the projects I've delivered. This is the recurring cost savings or recurring revenue or deals or whatever. In a rand, this is a rand value I believe that I've generated. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to forecast, especially if you financial manager in back office or whatever. But I promise you, there are plenty of opportunities to save everyone's company money. And I think that's super low hanging fruit. And I can give an example of what I've been doing lately with the business I'm in. If you go there armed with that kind of data and evidence, that not only am I meeting whatever KPIs you have set out for me, I've gone above and beyond and have actually saved the company X. Like, can I capture 1% of X, 5%, 10%, whatever the case may be, because that will incentivize me and teach the employees to carry on that good behavior, that that mindset shift of, in order for me to create value for myself or to capture value for myself, I have to generate value for the business. The business is already paying you the value that they perceive that you're providing them. That was the job description. This job description is worth whatever, 750K per annum for a newly qualified. Okay, so if you hit all these things, cool. Like, you're getting your salary. Well done. If you then go over and above that, and you knock it out of the park, and you create a project or implement something, some cost saving exercise, or renegotiate, I don't know, a Salesforce agreement, or you take some initiative that creates immediate cost savings and drops straight to the bottom line, there's no reason why you can't catch one apple of all the apples that you're shaking from the tree. There's no reason why. And if you start having that framing of getting rid of, like, I'm entitled to whatever because I'm a CA and I've gone through CTA and articles and it was hard and whatever, like, we've all done that. Guess what? Like, congrats, you're now earning more than most of the country. So you come through the door. You're not going to get the increases and bonuses for, stock standard performance of your roles and responsibilities. I think if you think about creating value and demonstrably creating value and showing it to your managers and the business, you will capture more value and you will rise in that organization. And and again, as Charlie Munger said, to get what you want, you've got to deserve what you want. So that's also applicable in marriage, or in dating. If you want a great spouse, then be a great spouse. Because if you're not going to be one, then why should you get one? And it's so simple, but it's just so profound.
It is so profound, man. There were 1,000 different threads. But, like, for me, TLDR, see yourself not as an expense. Don't see yourself as salaries and wages. See yourself as an asset. And if you can focus on that, you'll be able to see beyond the budget and between the line items. Because I think there's a really big misconception with, I think it's a big South African thing because there's a lot of scarcity down here, but we put our faith in the institution as if the institution is going to save us in every single way. We think they're foolproof. But truth be told, this budget was made by some dude, some lady. And that lady, that dude, had maybe even a boss that was saying, nah, don't put too much into the marketing, or don't put too much into this part. You must understand that that's the case. If you can think creatively beyond that budget, maybe, there's only 100,000 Rand or 200,000 Rand allocated to this thing. Maybe look at ways that you can actually bring in money for this specific project. You are becoming an asset. Liron, you did top articles at Nedbank. One, what was your experience? And two, what type of person is and is not for that type of program? I'm curious. To be continued in part 2. See you next week.